Welcome to Amish Roots, plain talk in a modern world. Thank you for joining me. When I was growing up, we never ate out as a family at a restaurant. In fact, I cannot recall knowing anyone who did. If I remember correctly, the first time I ate at a restaurant was when I was in grade 4. Our class went on a day trip to the zoo. Normally, our family did not participate in school trips if it meant we had to pay to go. My parents told us we could only have one class trip during our school years, so we were supposed to choose wisely. I decided this trip was the one I wanted. I was so excited about seeing animals I only read about in books. And when I found out we were having lunch at McDonald's, I knew this was the trip for me. You see, I heard the other children at school talking about McDonald's, and now I was being offered the chance to go. I don't remember how much we had to pay for the trip up front, but I do remember the night before the excursion, my dad explaining the money he was giving me to spend at the zoo. He told me that I was to be sure that I had enough for lunch and I could spend some on a souvenir. I also remember him telling me that I certainly did not have to spend it all and was welcome to bring some home. Knowing that this was a special occasion and that money was not plentiful in our family, I was eager to show my dad I was responsible. When lunchtime came, we gathered in our groups, led by a parent volunteer, at the McDonald's on the grounds of the zoo. I was having trouble deciding what I wanted because everything looked so good and different from my meals at home. Most of the kids were all ordering a burger called Big Mac. I figured it must be special, so that is what I purchased, even though it took more of my money than some of the other items. It was, however, quite delicious, and I savored every bite. Later, when our class went to purchase souvenirs, I regretted that I had bought the more expensive burger because I wanted to buy a keychain that had a little wooden giraffe attached. The parent volunteer encouraged me to get the giraffe, telling me that I would have just enough money to purchase it. But I put it back, choosing instead to buy a keychain that simply had the name of the zoo on it. Because I remembered my dad's words, saying I did not need to spend all the money, and I wanted to take some back to him. It was probably just a few coins, but it meant everything to me that I could take some home. My first lesson on spending wisely. There were a few occasions after that when I got to eat at a restaurant because I was with my mom or dad in the city for doctor or shopping trips, but not very often. Each time, it was so special, and I had difficulty choosing an item I had never tried before. It was not until I was working and earning money that it became more frequent occurrence. Now, the script has flipped. I realize now how lucky I was to eat such wholesome, nutritious food on the farm. Nothing at any restaurant even compares to what we made at home. I'm very thankful my mom and sisters taught me well, and dare I say, my husband would wholeheartedly agree. The other day, I met some friends for breakfast. I ordered a skillet dish, which consisted of hash browns, pieces of bacon, sausage and ham, melted cheese, gravy, and 2 eggs. And I also ordered a glass of orange juice. To put this meal into context, I decided to see what price each item is worth at the grocery store. Keep in mind, I shopped for the least expensive items at the best prices I could find this week to make this breakfast. A bag of hash browns, 650 grams, $4.74. 1 dozen eggs, $3.50. Package of breakfast sausage, 14 pieces, $5.99. A package of bacon, $7. A 700-gram size ham, $10.99. 400-gram package of cheese, $4.44, and a carton of orange juice, 1.54 liters, $3.99. So the total of the ingredients was $40.66. In comparison, my breakfast at the restaurant cost $21.19, including tax, but not tip. In my estimation, the groceries I bought would be enough to make 5 skillet meals with some ingredients left over. And the only tip I require is help with the dishes. The point I'm trying to make is that for me, eating out is a special treat, just as it was when I was growing up. If I do it too often, it becomes boring. In fact, my husband and I consider it a guilty pleasure. We have an inside joke that when the bill comes and we see how much we spent on one single meal, we lament. Do you realize how many bags of potatoes this could buy? Just so you know, this week at the grocery store, it would be 5 10-pound bags at $3.99 with the money I used at breakfast. If you consider where the food at restaurants comes from and how it is cooked, you discover that the distance it travels and the more times it is handled, the less flavorful it becomes. Because of this, most restaurants add spices and lots of salt to make the food taste better. And, as you see from my previous example, restaurant meals are much harder on the pocketbook. Even better is if you have access to growing your own food. I remember as a child, against my mom's orders, running to the garden, pulling out a carrot, brushing off the dirt, and happily munching it for a snack. The flavor of a fresh pulled carrot is to die for. Well, at the very least, it was worth a scolding from my mother. Canning and preserving food can seem like a lot of work, but the joys of eating it later and knowing exactly what was used to make it far outweighs the efforts. In fact, because of my labors, I savor it even more. You know, when COVID happened, my sister lamented one day about how the pandemic was causing many restaurants to close down. My reply to her was, do we need all these restaurants? When you go into the city, there is a restaurant on every corner, sometimes 2 or 3 within the same plaza. Do we really need that many? One last thought. Have our lives become so busy that we have decided that our need for convenience has replaced our desire for good health? Is it easier to eat out rather than choosing to take care of our bodies? Is it because we know there's a pill for that? I am not against eating at restaurants. I do it too. I'm also no expert on the subject. But perhaps we should take a closer look at how it is affecting our lives and pocketbooks. So, the next time you bite into a Big Mac or an Applebee's dinner, I encourage you to look at your bill and calculate how many bags of potatoes could I have purchased with that money. Mach's gut, and see you next time on Amish Roots.